To compete or not to compete? That is the question. My friends, I just had a student the other day come up to me and ask me, hey, I'm thinking about competing. What do you think? And so my answer is different for everybody. A lot of it comes down to their motivation. What is it that do you really want to compete? Is that what you're getting into jiu-jitsu for? And I don't think that you have to compete necessarily, but more often than not, I think that it's a positive experience for most people. Now, there's an argument out there that, well, if you're only interested in self-defense, going into competition, it develops maybe bad habits, things that you wouldn't do in a fight that you would in competition because you're not going to get hit, typically. And while I agree with that statement, I think there's a lot more positives that aren't really talked about as far as competition. Number one is the ability to handle stress. It doesn't matter if you are hanging on the edge of a cliff or you're fighting another human. You will never be so stressed or expend more energy in your life than in trying to save it. And I think that that's the most valuable thing, at least for me in competition. The most valuable thing was learning how to handle stress. So let's say the stress level in a fight is here, okay, and training is here. All right, well, clearly competition is not going to be up here where the fight is, but it's going to be above training, somewhere in that middle. And the closer you can reach that and learn about how you handle that stress, yes, of course, everybody's going to play within the confines of the rules. You've got a referee, hopefully you've got medics there at the tournament in case something bad were to happen. The risk of injuries is always a little bit higher. It's still, I think, in a lot of ways, you're preparing yourself for how you deal with stress, and I think that is absolutely critical. I think that's the most valuable thing that I've taken away from competition. That was my own personal goal in competition. My main objective was learning how I dealt with stress. How do I perform under that fire? And because I knew that if the fight happened, I'm not going to be able to perform 100% of my technical abilities like I would in the room where I'm comfortable, but I get a picture of what that stress is going to do to me in the fight. And the more you do it, the more you start to inoculate yourself to that stress. All right, it's never going to be 100% gone, but you're going to deal with it a little bit better. So the highest level of realism with lowest risk of injury, I think, is that perfect balance. I think the second biggest reason that you should contemplate competing is that it gives you a goal, right? A goal for improvement. So if you say that okay, I'm going to compete in 2 months. I've got this target. You're probably going to train more. You're probably going to have better objectives in your training. You're probably going to eat better, sleep better. You're going to be focused on your physical performance. At least you should be. And I think that's a positive. It just gives you another reason to train and to have a goal to set. I think the third biggest benefit to competition is that you get exposed to different styles of competitor. You're going to have people who may approach guard passing differently or different types of attacks differently. You're going to be exposed to a lot of different techniques that you may not be exposed to in your own academy, and that's a great thing. It broadens your perspective and your knowledge in jiu-jitsu. So why would you not want to compete? Well, number one, if you don't want to, right? Nobody's going to force you. I'm sure there may be some instructors that kind of push it, but if you don't want to compete, don't compete. If you don't want to deal with that, of course, jiu-jitsu should be something that everybody enjoys. At the heart of it, in my opinion, jiu-jitsu is self-defense. So there is that argument that, maybe these types of techniques that I'm going to focus on really aren't preparing me for the street. So if your sole objective is self-defense, that's perfectly fine to focus on that. There's nothing wrong with that. I know whole schools that I respect highly and their jiu-jitsu is fantastic. They don't really engage in competition, right? Some people will say that they don't want to expose themselves. Well, I don't think that's necessarily true. They can compete in other ways. They have their own tournaments. Like a great example is the Valence brothers. They have fantastic jiu-jitsu. Their students they're really good, and so they're phenomenal instructors. So I don't necessarily buy that argument that they don't want to expose themselves. It just their expression of jiu-jitsu is purely for self-defense. Another thing you might think about is your age. If you're, say, 50 years old and the Masters division at the local tournament is 30 and above, which is very, very common. Now, there are competitions out there that have age categories that are closer to your age. Like you may have to travel, like the Pan Ams, for example, the Masters Worlds. They have age categories like almost every 5 years. So that's a great way, honestly. Can I play with with adult competitors? Yeah, I can play with them, but becoming adult world champion at 44 is going to be a tough call, right? And a lot of it is just the fact that these younger guys, they heal faster, they're quicker, stronger, and it can be complicated, right? It can be difficult to compete at that level when you get a little bit older. So it's nice for you to go up against people who are of your own age category, because a lot of times they have very similar life experiences. I'm in the middle of raising children, building a business, a family. It's hard for me to train like I did when I was younger. In my 20s, my early 30s, I could train really, really hard. Sometimes sleep in and just wake up, eat a cheeseburger, get right back on the mat and do the same thing over. My body healed a lot faster, less injuries, things like that. So it's nice now that if I want to compete, I can go and compete with guys my own age. Another reason that you might not want to is that you may have an injury that you may have to take care of, or some sort of disability that is not very that puts you at risk in the competition. Because for sure, you go out there, people are going to want to win. They're going to come at you 100% within the confines of the rules. And if you have something that maybe your doctor has said that's not a good idea, you probably shouldn't. You probably shouldn't compete. You may still be able to train with responsible training partners, but it might not be the best idea to compete. And of course, you can still have a healthy jiu-jitsu lifestyle and experience all of the great things and benefits that come from jiu-jitsu. But competition just may not be your thing, and that's perfectly fine. You can still progress through the ranks. You can still become very good at jiu-jitsu. So don't stress about it. If you want to compete, compete. If you don't. But do what you want to do. I think I've laid out some good positives, and I think it's very valuable if you decide that it's something that you want to do. I say go for it. I think you'll come out of it better, and just stay safe, keep training. We'll see y'all soon.